Okay, we're going to move on to our next topic. Our next topic this weekend, Jamila and I, sometimes we'll check in and watch Netflix at the same time and start talking about it. So we actually watched. Oh, sorry about that. We watched two things. The first thing we got into was Pamela Anderson's Netflix special.
I really liked it.
Yeah, it
She she's really cool.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that some people may think she's stuck up and
yeah,
like, oh, I'm all that.
yeah,
She's really humble.
yeah. Very humble. It was one of those. When I say intimate, it was one of those like intimate stories of, getting to know who I am and who and what you witnessed in the past kind of thing. Um, it's interesting for both of us watching it generationally because when her and I'm thinking of when she was married to Tommy Lee and some of the things that happened with the videos and things like that. When that height happened, I was in my I want to say, was I coming out of, I think I was coming out of high school. Jamila was literally being born when all that was going on. So, as we were watching things, I would kind of catch Jamila up on some stuff, like, when they were showing the stuff in the early 90s. But then when it got to 97, the year she was born, I was like, okay, so this moment happened the year you were born. I remember because I was feeding you while we were watching something on E. And she was like, what? And for me, because they were a part of pop culture during my coming of age years, it was really a moment watching her in this moment shed light on what we were witnessing back then. And one thing me and Jamila were talking about is like social media wasn't really big then. The internet was out, but it was not what it is today. Like, it was a part of our lives, but it was not a part of our lives like it is right now. And what happened with them, when they were violated, when somebody stole their tapes and then put it out like that, now when we hear people having, a tape like that, it's a part of their business plan to become bigger. It was just their private moments that somebody found and then put it out there, and she was fighting to protect, herself, fighting to protect her family, her children. At the time they were becoming parents, and I'm just jumping into that part of the story. There's so much more in the story that hit both of us. Like she talked about, how she was growing up, what her experience was like with her parents, just the turmoils they would have, and then when they were with their mom by themselves when their parents split up for a little bit, how I remember she was talking about the powdered milk, and she was like, I'm tired of eating powdered milk. And my dad called, and I told him to come get us. Like, me and Jamila were like, oh my God. It was just so many different moments like that. And me and Jamila were just like, wow, this is really deep. And then the story about how that babysitter, she said the babysitter, assaulted her, basically. And she just started praying that this woman would leave her alone. And the babysitter basically was unalived in a car accident.
Yeah.
That's the best way to say it.
Yeah.
And she said when it happened, she was like, I felt like I was some kind of magical being because this woman was hurting me, and I was praying that it would stop, and it did. And me and Jamila was like, oh wow. Like, it was a oh wow moment. Like, I'm not wishing unaliveness on people, but
Right.
God has his ways of doing things. Karma happen. Things happen, and we never know why. God makes those kind of decisions, but that moment was really big. And then just watching, her evolution and getting into the industry and getting into her creativity, how she was discovered, all of that was really interesting. Even how, she got her job with Hugh Hefner. He's no longer here. And I think of, when she was talking about that, I was having a moment because I was first processing, he's no longer here. That whole world, that whole scene, the Playboy Mansion and all the different things we know about the Playboy Mansion and the things that came out of that. It's like it's no longer a part of this era in that sense. So when she was talking about her experience with it and how she used it to launch her career, once again I was having another moment. Just like I was like, oh my God, everybody's gone. Like,
I did like that she was writing down everything that was happened. Like, she was just journaling a lot, and I really liked that. And I want her to make a book. Or,
yeah.
Yeah, I want to read it.
I would read her book. If she wants to do an audiobook, I'll listen to it. It was very intriguing. Like, when those scenes would come up, me and Jamila would just be like, this is really... It was very in-depth. And I appreciate her deciding to do this because it put humanity back into who she is versus, everybody's looking at her like a bombshell or looking at her from the place of, oh, she's just this vixen, or she has no brains. And, at the end of watching it, I was like, I always knew, I thought she was kind of cool. I knew there was more to her than what we were seeing. And in this moment, I felt like it was like she finally got her time to tell the world, look, I'm a human being. I'm not a ditzy, person on, I don't want to just be like Ditzy Blonde, but I'm not that stereotype that you're trying to make me or pin me into. Yeah. Even the part, what really got me? Was the ending when her and her sons were talking. And she had that moment where she was like, okay, I know we're watching this moment and enjoying it because it's a moment between me, you, and your dad. And she goes, and what frustrates me is that I never found that companion. I never got that love. And what bothers me is that I know I had some of that with your dad. And I did love him and still do love him. We just can't be together. And that hurts. And I understood. I got that. In that moment, I knew exactly. It was almost like she was explaining. When I say some of my experience, not all the way in detail, but I understood what she meant. Like, I was like, two things could be right at the same time in that sense. And even when she shared why they broke up, it was like, oh my God, my heart, my heart. I remember we knew some of what went down, but we didn't get, it's like we got some of the story, but not all of the story. And then we saw some of the chaos from it. And then now they're trying to make this, new series. And even when I saw some bits and pieces of the clips of the series, I was like, I feel like this is a cheap imitation of who these people really are. And I feel like you guys are just trying to capitalize one more time on the phenomena of what these two people were back then and how we're more desensitized. So back then, whatever was going on felt like, oh my God, it's shocking on. Now if you see it, you'd be like, somebody just did that. It's not a big deal. So that was my thing. Anything else you wanted to bring up about it, or?
I did like how she was bare when she did her, interviews and stuff. Like, she was like, you're just getting me.
Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. That was a flex. Okay. She was like, I don't care. This is who I am. I just dyed my hair. You gonna get my freckles. And it was like, you got to put humanity on it, And I think we lose that a lot. We lose that. Yeah. So I guess that's all the key things I want to talk about. Is there anything else you want to bring up, or you want to move to the next topic? Okay.